Let me just say a couple things to at the outset. We're going to go through the show judging, then we're going to go through the trial garden judging, and then I'm going to encourage you all to read the classification and handbook of Dahlia's module, but I'm going to switch to my own PowerPoint and give you my perception of the highlights of the CHD, and we'll talk about the status of our judges. So I'm not going to go through that module 16, but I hope you guys will do that. Okay, this module introduces the fundamentals of the judging, and probably we'll spend more time on that than any of the others. Staging with a great picture of Tony, well, not such a great picture, but a Tony in the middle of, which I think is most appropriate, and then the judging process. Okay, two methods of judging. One is judging against perfection, which we do in the seedling bench evaluation and also in the trial gardens. And then in competition, which is the topic of conversation in this module. Okay, the characteristics of the blooms are compared against each other. And on the basis of everything that you learned about the faults in the previous modules, you bring to bear on this conversation with your team about which is the best of the cultivar, which is the best of the entries in that class. That's what that one just says. Process is repeated for every bloom and in every section for which you have responsibility. Prior to judging, this is an important thing. One, you need to kind of walk through your sections at least and get a general sense of the quality of the blooms, because they can be affected positively and negatively by the weather that's been going on. And so you kind of want to generate your perception of the general condition of the quality of the entries in the show. You need to identify in your section misplaced entries. So if you see something that doesn't look like it belongs, or if you see something that is labeled to be there but shouldn't be, you need to identify those kind of early in the process. Yeah, the third thing that I wanted to point out is that you need to be aware, knowledgeable about the show schedule, and particularly how your section fits in that general schedule, because they're hugely different. Our summit show schedule is very different from the Cuyahoga and Jaga shows, where there are lots of combined classes. So you just need to have in the back of your mind the nature of the section that you're going to be judging. So if you see something that's in the wrong place, you need to make corrections on the net entry tag if necessary. And you need to start at arm's length, as opposed maybe even further back. Tony liked to step way back and look at the general impression of the blooms. But you need also to make sure that you are looking at each of the blooms and at the front and the back of it, even underneath. So you want to make sure that you've looked at all of the blooms all the way around them. Yeah, this is just further point to the distance. I mean, if you're right up close, you're going to see some issues that shouldn't be penalized much, because if you were standing back, you would barely see them. Let's see, how come that's not moving on? Something different. Oh, there we go. So that there are some color faults that you'd see right up with your nose in it, but it isn't much of a fault because you can barely see it when you're standing back at arm's length. This is just the point I just made. You want to look at all the way around, underneath, from the top, so that you have a clear picture of faults on all of the blooms. Yeah, Randy, please go ahead.
Can I make a point on that last slide
Please.
very quickly?
I don't know if
We
I
got a
can go backwards.
backup one, yeah.
I wish I could. I don't know if I can. No, I think it's just going to go forward on
Do
me.
you have arrows on your keyboard, Ron?
Yeah.
If you click the ones to the left, there you go. You got it. Good job.
Okay.
Thank you.
This bloom that they're actually holding, you know, and judge enough with Tony and Ron and Jerry and other real great judges, but and we always come back to balance. And you got a beautiful, they're holding a beautiful bloom. I'm a little blurry about the way they're holding it, but if you look at about 2 inches above that, they removed a set of leaves, which completely destroyed the balance in that presentation.
Yeah.
Because now you got your true leaves up there, but they're smaller than the diameter of the bloom. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can see
You're talking about
this.
below that. Love it.
Here, Randy.
That's the bud scar, the leaf node there, and they've removed them. And that pretty much for
Big
me.
mistake, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, this is something young judges, you know, can learn to catch, and that goes back into your point system, and for exhibitors to learn not to do that. Okay, thank you.
Great point, Randy. Thanks. I zipped right past that. I don't think I even noticed that the first time when I was doing it this afternoon. Yeah,
You're not as snooty as I am.
really clearly a serious fault right there. And this is the foliage, that foliage is too small in addition, so. Okay, thank you.
You don't know why those were taken off. It might be there was damage on them or something. There was
Could well have been.
one of them
Yeah.
may have already been half off, so they really perhaps had no choice.
Kind of had no choice, yeah.
Hey, Jerry, with that bloom, it really shows the lack of the triangle that you were talking about
Yeah,
the day that you were leading it.
right.
Yeah, sure does.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, I'm losing part of the screen there, but one of the things that is most important in a judging team is a conversation about about their observations. So I think we do that pretty well in the DSO. It would sort of be our natural approach to have some conversation about the faults. But if you're in a situation where you're with a team that's not talking about it, you know, ask them, okay, let's talk a little bit about that. So help me learn if you will. Always a good idea. And this is also an excellent point. If an exhibitor comes to you afterwards and says, I don't understand that, you need to be able to provide the team perspective, the team answer to that, and not say, yeah, I think you're right. Those other dummies were screwed up. You need to stand with your team and explain to them the basis for the conclusion. Okay. Just rely on the knowledge. Okay. And well, the point being made here is that you need to rely on your on the conversations that we had on color and form, that those are bigger issues than the straightness of the stem. So if you're comparing faults, which you are frequently doing in shows, form fault is a worse fault than a bloom position fault or a stem fault, for example. Yeah,
that's one of the things that you really learn through going through these judging modules, because I've been with teams over the years where, you know, if somebody is really upset with a stem, they may even set it back because of that, and not because there's something wrong with the bloom or the form. So that's, you know, the more you understand this whole scoring system and so forth, the more you put these things into proper perspective.
Thanks, Chair. Let's see, every ADS show needs to include everything, and they need to be arranged in such a way that it's pretty easy for the exhibitors to find their class. There are also maybe different levels, in other words, a junior class or a open class, or those entries. Yeah, singles or multiples, and again, that goes back to the show schedule, and that is something that you should be familiar with before you're out in the middle of the show judging it. You need to be conscious of how the show is organized. Yeah, this is an interesting one because I agree with one of them. Cultivars need to be shown in the class that they are classified. And in spite of the way it looks, if it's classified as a miniature ball, it needs to be in that class. And any variation from that, deviation from that, should end up with a reconsideration of the classification of that cultivar by the classification committee, not by the judging team who says, "Oh, this should be a ball, not a miniature ball." It isn't up to the judges to decide that. The entry should be in the class where it is classified in the classification book. Next one I feel is pretty controversial because I have said and really continue to feel that the size of the dahlias there isn't a big penalty for oversize and undersize. And this says literally the opposite of that. They should be faulted if they fall outside the specified size range. And my counsel to you would be that penalty would have to be relatively small in my mind, because if you have one that's a little undersized, I don't consider that to be much of a fault, particularly if it's a micro or a small size where diminutiveness can be a benefit. So what do you, Randy, Jerry, what do you guys think about that statement?
Well, I'm in total agreement with you, Ron. You know, we don't live in Britain where we're running rings, over them and stuff like that. I just,
Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's right.
Jerry, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. Well, if you see this and if you implement it and if you hear that in a discussion, recognize that there's a basis for it in the modules. And you need to sort of be open-minded to that. But in our DSO shows, I would certainly encourage you not to penalize something because it's oversized or because it's undersized. Unless it's wildly outside the 46 inches that it's supposed to be. Here's an interesting one too. I didn't really expect this to be in here. This cultivar on the left turns out it's in a variegated section, and they are saying penalize it for the lack of the variegation. And, that's not an unreasonable situation. I just didn't expect to see it in here. I guess I forgot what I last time I read it. Let me just go on to the comparison. There's the other entries in that class, and you need to reward the one that has the variegated coloring.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get into that situation very often, but this is an interesting example.
Yeah, not as dramatic as that. I mean, that's pretty dramatic.
Yeah, sure is. Yeah. But I think, again, relatively uncommon that you'd encounter that. Here's another example, kind of on the basis of the form. It's in an ID class and it isn't particularly ID. The ray floret should be twisted, curled, or wavy. And these are not particularly twisted, curled, or wavy. And so, I mean, it looks more like a water lily to me, but right. So if you are in a class where you have something that looks more like an ID, trueness to form is a fault, and it is an important fault. And we talked about that when I don't know, whoever talked about form. That clear? Anybody have questions? I mean, feel free to leap in here. Yeah, it just says penalize it because it doesn't conform to the ideal definition of form. Here's one where the point being made is that you don't need to penalize this because it was in a cactus class, because it was eventually then reclassified as an incurved cactus, which is where it should have been. But when you see this and it's classified as a cactus, you need to judge it as a cactus, and you probably need to knock some points off since it are consider it a fault that it does not have more cactus character of being straight ray florets. You guys agree?
Yeah, that would be probably controversial, you know, with your team, because you look at that and you say, man, this looks incurved to me, and yet it's in the cactus form. And I don't know, you may be running after the show chair to decide what to do. I'm not sure, because that would be a hard decision to make, because certainly it's not going to do well in cactus.
Well, Jerry, I think that's why it was reclassified to a.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was, but I mean, at the time of the show, if you
Yeah.
had bloom,
Time of the show, you got to judge it as it's classified.
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's see, staging. Here's the shot of Tony that
Mhm.
wasn't anybody better as far as I know, in staging a bloom to its very best.
Absolutely.
And I hope the point that they're making here, and there's 2 or 3 on the staging, is that it is an opportunity to show the bloom at its best. So that's a challenge. Staging doesn't count directly as a fault or a plus, but by virtue of the way it affects the way you see it, it does certainly affect the result. Things like stalk and foliage, the one that Randy pointed out earlier, sure had a problem with the foliage. And, you know, whether to remove or leave in an extra set of leaves is always a kind of a important discussion when you are staging. Yeah, and you need to be cognizant of superior staging. But as I said, that kind of leaps out at you when you see it on the table. You aren't allowed to restage a bloom to make corrections unless by virtue of the judging process, you knock it loose or something, then you need to restage it, try to get the wedges back in so it stands up properly again. Yeah, same point. The staging can influence the appearance. Let's see, judging team. Yeah, let's get into more specifics for the judging. Ordinarily, there's a meeting before the judging actually happens, and you get assigned to a team, and you get assigned to a group. And this was obviously a bigger show, probably a regional, or I don't know that it looks big enough to be a national.
No,
But
I think that was national in North
That-
Carolina. wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, because that's Buddy, isn't it?
That's
Yeah,
Buddy.
sure.
I see
Here's
Tony,
Dave.
Jim,
Yep.
and Harriet.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, a lot. And Tim or Todd, I mean.
And
Yeah,
Tony,
Tony. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Southern show, yeah. Okay, more about now the process. You'll be assigned to a team, as I just said. Typical composition will be a senior accredited candidate and a clerk. And I want for our judges to consider the clerk a part of the process and get them involved in the conversation as well, because they are often candidate judges and their perspective and their view are important. Let's see, number of judging teams, and you get to a certain portion of it. You need to stay with your team. Don't wander off, and stay with the team even after you've completed your assignment, because then you need to go back and ask the show chair if there's an opportunity or need for you to judge others. Gosh, that's our national, isn't it? Didn't we have that in the background here? Yeah.
oh yeah, it is. Yep. Is that I remember the wall, the back wall there.
Yeah.
This looks like Grand Rapids.
Yeah,
Maybe.
it could well be. Yeah. Comparative judging blooms are first judged against light cultivars, and winning entries then compete for the higher awards in their class and in the section, and then overall in the show. Yeah, and this is what Jerry spends half a lifetime working on, is the process of the instructions that basically the clerks ordinarily follow on how to move a winning entry up through the steps to towards the head table. And those are pretty always pretty well specified in the instructions that the clerk follows.
By the way, do you see that paper mache? The big, it's right there in the middle.
Yeah, this one. Yeah.
Yeah. If anybody knows where to get those, let me know, because we're having a heck of a time. We don't have any really big vases like that. Now I notice here on the left, this one looks plastic, and I wonder where
This
they
one,
got
yeah,
them from.
sure does. It's like maybe like a wastebasket or a.
Yeah, it looks like a
This one over here is too, Jerry.
Oh, that's I have to look into that.
Pat, did you say something?
No,
I just said it looks like a trash can. Yeah. Hey, whatever works.
Yeah, that's right.
I
Because these are,
investigated about a year ago, and the paper mache ones, you can't get the big ones, and you actually get them from the funeral supply places.
used
Yeah.
That's what they really were big funeral arrangements. But I think we just need to hit the dollar stores and the big lots and that kind of place till we find something that, you know, we're willing to pay for. And
I
some
think
things,
we'll
I mean,
get this
Jerry,
kind of stuff, Sharon.
I took a
I'm saying-
screenshot of that, Jerry, and emailed it to the wholesaler, and they're looking to see if they could find more. I
Thanks.
just haven't heard back yet.
Nice.
You know, I mean, I know we're really off base here, but allowing a big 3 bloom to have 3 vases that Randy has done in the past, and Chris did at last year, I think it was, is another way to go. And we may have to encourage that a little bit more if we can't find these single big vases.
Yeah, certainly Jim and Harriet often end up wanting to have something, you know, like the big paper mache one to put in a 3 or a 5.
Right.
Clawfoot top.
what's your price target?
$3.
Yoder's
Well-
might have something along that line.
Yeah, that's a possibility, yeah.
Jim already
Okay.
checked.
Oh,
Let
did
me,
he?
let me,
Checked, I don't think he could find it. Sorry, Ron, come on.
that's all right. I'm gonna keep going. Uh, yeah, one of the things that, is an integral part of this team process is that you're gonna get differences of opinion. And there's no particular, I mean, that shouldn't be surprising. Different people have different perspectives and different backgrounds. But you need to be able to discuss that with, even kind of a domineering judge and be able to, say, I disagree respectfully. And you need to be able to have that conversation. However, if you are in the minority and you respectfully nod and say, yeah, okay. Gosh, that's the end of that one. Okay, let's switch to Trial Garden. That in some ways that's kind of more fun. Totally different. Okay, now
Hey,
do I need
Ron,
to
can I
start?
say one thing?
Please leap
Randy,
in.
Randy, you were pretty instrumental in this whole past summer. And as a new judge, I was candidating this summer. The clerks have to be taken care of. And one way that I had talked to Randy about a show that we had gone to and we were at, and they were just moving so fast that the clerk couldn't even keep up. And one of the things that Randy and I talked about at the end of the show was if you're judging so fast that the clerk can't keep up, you're not giving the blooms and the exhibitors that brought them and staged them the proper respect of judging them. And the clerks really allow the judges to do, I don't know, to do their best because the clerks do all the stuff that the judges don't have to write and keep track of, that they can really talk about the blooms. But Randy, I feel like you were always this past summer a proponent for the clerk. So if you could talk about that a little bit.
Well, I mean, they have all the work, and it's easy. And I've judged with people in the past, good judges, but they're so fast that and it's not fair. And Ron just read where he wants the clerks to be included in the judging team, and they should. So why would you take a teammate and just leave them behind? Just so you can get your section done. It's just not fair. Not fair at all to the clerks and to like we talked earlier, and Chris brought it up. It's not fair to the bloom. The bloom is the ultimate judging subject, not the exhibitor. If he or she made the flaw in staging that, then they are gonna have to live with that. But yeah, treat your clerks with utmost care.
I would like to make a suggestion. When we were at the Summit Show, I'm a candidate judge, but I was one of the clerks there. We actually had two clerks on the team. And so one of the clerk was like making sure all the specific blooms from that category were together to be looked at. And the other clerk had the clipboard and was doing all the recording. And it just gave us a chance to catch up with the judges.
Good thought, Coletta. Yeah.
So many times that falls on one clerk. And
Right.
Yeah.
and obviously as that presentation started, the judges are supposed to go down through and check to make sure, or and try to catch as many misplaced blooms, so it doesn't fall entirely on the clerks. Now I can name two or three clerks that are they're every bit as good as judges, but they refuse to take the responsibility, and they are so good at their job that you can kind of get lackadaisical on the judging team.
And I guess we don't very often have the luxury of having a couple clerks. Now, at a national show, that's a little more likely because, there's so many people around that you can usually, get a couple people involved. But at our shows, we tend not to have that luxury. But it's sure a good idea. It's something we can work towards, right? I mean, that's, when I fill out a sheet, I sometimes feel like mission is accomplished when I have a one clerk, but, that's a good thought to keep in mind among us guys.
But Ron,
That's,
I mean, you know, when you're in charge of the judging the shows, you know, you're very, very, very confident confident of bringing that issue up. You know, respect your
Yep.
clerks and you know and work with
Yep.
them and
yeah,
you know slow down when you need to slow down and you know you got to coordinate everything as the judging team goes down through the judging.
so, Chris, it was most appropriate for you to comment that, you know, hey, we're losing them. Yeah, so,
Well, it was funny. Randy had a clerk in Columbus on his judging team that it was the first time that they had ever clerked. Got all done. We both had commented, not necessarily, um, I would say, not necessarily a huge dahlia grower or anything like that. And then I think it was the very next week that same clerk, about halfway through, almost politely said to her judging team, "I'm done. Good luck. This is misery." And it was just a matter of like respect and appreciation for the clerk. And you know, even though I'm brand new to this, after that show, every show that from that point forward last summer that Quinn and I went to, I would just say something at the beginning like, "Hey, thanks for clerk, and we're gonna make sure that we take our time and you can keep up." And it almost like forces the other judges to be cognizant of that.
to pay attention, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good thought.
You know, and another
Let
thing
me,
is, I'm sorry, and another thing, there's, uh, don't think that it's beneath you as a judge to help, you know, a clerk that's maybe struggling a little bit or not. I mean, it's just courtesy to, you know, maybe put a sticker on or, you know, I think Chris, in fact, some of the down in Columbus, you know, I carried the seconds, he carried the first, or vice versa, whatever, and so we was able to help out that way. But you know, it, it's not fair to leave somebody stranded out there and then feeling overwhelmed.
there is one piece that I think the judges need to be careful, and that is in avoiding, you know, writing down the winner or being aware of the winner, because when you get to the end of that, you're going to be picking best in class or best in section, and it is best for you not to be aware of, you know, who the exhibitor was. Okay, do I have the trial garden up? You guys see the trial garden?
It says
Yes.
you've completed the trial garden.
You need to go to the first slide, Ron. You're at the end.
You're at the end, yeah.
So if you hit the escape key on your
Oh,
keyboard,
oh, yeah, okay. I thought I was, no, I'm at this, well, I thought I was at the section.
now you're
Now
at
I'm
the
good?
Yep.
now slideshow.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, that's out at Portland. That's a beautiful, beautiful trial garden.
Yeah.
Let's see, created trial gardens to provide a basis for general determination of the quality of the entries. And they're kind of spread all over the country. I'm going to zip. That's the Tacoma one we were just looking at. Canby is at Swan Island. So for those of you who have been to Swan Island, you know that's a spectacular location for a trial garden. Here's the Inland Empire in Spokane. Red Deer has one in Alberta, which is a really neat trial garden. Here's the North Central Trial Garden. And the locations, I think, is like at the Bloom as opposed to at the base of the Bloom, because it's in Minnesota. Here's Elkhart, Mid-Atlantic, and the Eastern Trial Garden on Long Island. Okay. And establish to promote and evaluate the dahlias and provide a way to introduce new cultivars to the general ADS membership and the truck and the Dahlia Gardeners. This is Canby. The Trial Garden rules, actually, there are, I think they're included in the classification handbook of dahlias. They basically are required to do their best to grow them in the same way, targeting, half a dozen blooms for the BBs and fewer bigger, and that kind of approach. This is also can be. It's just the point is that the different cultivars could do differently in different locations, and therefore hybridizers may choose to do that. I don't think there's any accuracy to that statement. People send them to different trial gardens in order to be able to have it eligible for awards. And if you are the best, highest scoring BB in 3 trial gardens, you get an award for that, and so on for the other classes. And I think that's the basis for sending to different areas, so that you hope to do better with the scores. And all it has to do is score in one of the trial gardens in order to be scoring, although ones that do that aren't going to be showstoppers. Back out of Portland, you submit 3 tubers or plants, and the trial garden directors do their best to maintain the plants as we would in our own gardens. They are anonymous. They are only numbered entries, and that provides a basis for unbiased evaluation. I'm not sure where that is. 3 judges are at least 3 judges are required to evaluate an entry, and the majority 2 have to be senior judges. At Portland, they have such a huge number of judges that they will have 15 or 18 or 20 scores on each of their cultivars, so they have no trouble with that. Some of the trial gardens some of you remember the Mahoning Valley Trial Garden, which was great, sure nice to have it close by and everything. But they had times when they had trouble getting the right sufficient number of judges if their blooms, for example, were late or early, or they might have difficulty getting 3 scores.
Notice they're using tomato cages.
Yeah.
That was neat.
Whoops, let me go back. Yeah, sure are. That may be Inland Empire. It was in a park like that.
Yeah.
I use tomato cages in my grow bags that I put on the driveway.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, they work pretty good.
Yeah, they do. I have used them. Yeah. Back up to Portland then. Okay, recommendations for judging. Yeah, you want to, if possible, you want to do it, avoid doing it in the hottest part of the day. And if that is unavoidable, then you need to give them a break on substance in particular. And, the stems may be wilting a bit, so you need to give them a little bit of a break in that regard. Growth habits, location and husbandry. Now, you need to be careful that you're not worrying too much about husbandry, because it's not in the hands of a caring, I shouldn't put it that way. It's not in the hands of someone who has all the time to care for them as you might in your own garden. Yeah, and weather conditions will also affect. That's Mark and Linda Taylor, Mark Oldenkamp, I believe, and Linda. And this would be Canby. Determine a cultivar's class by measuring at least 3 to 4 blooms for the bigger ones, half a dozen blooms for BBs and smaller.
It's not Mark, but I can't remember
What
the,
didn't, Mark?
the guy's name.
Yeah, you're right. It isn't.
I know the guy, I just can't think of his
Yeah, I
name.
do too. Thanks. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Jess. I can't think of his name either. He's he does a lot of arrangements, I think. That's who I'm thinking of.
He
Yeah.
does, right?
Yeah. Uh, look for consistency. Yeah, you want to have, this almost looks like that one we were looking at earlier, that's the variegated.
Yeah,
And so you would want the 3 plants to provide basically the same sort of an appearance. If it's variegated, they ought to be similarly variegated. Yeah, and you can't score it if you lose 2, but if you have 2, then they are eligible to be evaluated. Yeah, the color determination is one of the most important parts of the process, whether it's seedling bench or trial garden. And it should be done in bright light, but not direct sun. Judge each entry on its potential. And that means, if you will, don't worry too much about mistakes that are made by the grower, since the grower isn't going to influence the potential of an entry. He can help it, but he might also damage it. Oh, yeah, that leads to evaluating less severely things like insect damage that doesn't have much to do with the potential for the entry, spray deposits, or late disbudding, crooked stems based on the fact that they are not tied properly. I don't know why it's saying evaluate less severely. I pretty much just ignore any of those things
mhm,
because I don't think they are determining the potential of the entry. Yeah. That clear? Anybody have questions about that?
Well, Ron, would that be if like the stem that the bloom was attached to was at such an angle that it kind of forces the bloom to be clock faced? But if the stem is strong and sturdy and perpendicular to the ground, you would want to score the angle of that bloom, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yep. Particularly if you weren't, as long as you weren't doing it in the middle of the day. No, you want to sort of excuse the errors that the folks tending the trial garden make, and make sure that you're giving benefit to the potential of the entry and not penalizing it for things that aren't associated with the basic characteristics of the plant.
I think of like RC Diana Brazil. How did that make it out? That thing is so clock faced.
Well, but see, that's down in that bottom 5.
Yeah.
And I'm not very familiar with that one. I guess I've seen it, but it may have wonderful form and color, in which case it's pretty likely to score.
Tony joked with me if he walked into a show and saw an RC Diana Brazil that had good bloom angle, he knew he was against a ringer somewhere because somebody had really
Somebody
groomed that thing while it grew.
somebody did some adjusting. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're getting to the end here. So judging against perfection, that's in the trial garden or on the seedling bench evaluation. Okay. And the other is judging in competition, and that's on the show bench. And we're judging against perfection in the trial garden. Form and color being the primary 2, substance, stem, foliage, bloom position, and floriferousness being the others. there's there's the scorecard. And we're gonna have some more experience with that at our other seminars like the one at Petitti's. It's, yeah, there's a scorecard for fully double and a scorecard for open centered. Obviously, you want to use the right one for the right cultivar. Let's see. Oh, she's going to just show you several judging teams judging. I have a feeling this is the or the North Central Trial Garden. Yeah. And one of the things that I had to struggle with when I was the Trial Garden director was the balancing the results of 5 different teams determining 5 different forms. I don't think that ever really happened, but could readily get 3 or 4 different forms. And it had some classics in that regard. And I guess let me put some modifications on this one. Judges should assess the characteristics of the scorecard independently after they've discussed it with their team members,
Yeah,
because that's you may not see all of the fault. That isn't to say, I mean, you can go into a trial garden and you can often judge by yourself, but I don't think that's nearly as effective as judging with a team and discussing it with them. I think you'll end up with a better perspective on the faults. Then you want to add it up and determine what your final score is, and then the next important uh, uh, addition here is to discuss it with your team. It used to be that I think it was might have been part of the old manual, that if you were within 3 points, that was considered to be pretty much the same result. However, I think even with that difference, you might want to say to your teammate, gee, I'm surprised that you're that high. Did you see this form fault? For example, that would be, the potential kind of conversation to have to make sure that you didn't miss something and or he didn't miss something or she. So I think it's important to have that discussion after you've had if you're judging with a team, after you have your final score in hand. Guys, you agree with that?
Yes.
well, yeah,
I think if if you have three scores and one of them's off by 7 points, somebody's got to do some reevaluating, I think.
Yeah, somebody missed something. Yeah. Okay. Okay, summary. Exhibition quality dahlias. And they're a wonderful place to hone your knowledge as a judge. And that's basically, that's a basic reason to miss the Mahoning Valley Trial Garden, is that we had some really useful and important discussions there. And frankly, I think that's the reason that our seminar at Petitti's is so useful, is that we have the opportunity to have that same kind of a conversation. It's usually a little artificial because we're looking at known cultivars sometimes, or seedlings that we know who grew and things like that. But it provides a good foundation for the kind of conversation that happens when a team is judging in the trial garden. Most importantly. Oh yeah, keep learning, have fun. Sounds like Sounds like a basic DSO approach, I hope. I
Yeah.
hope I hope everybody perceives that to be our basic approach. Okay, and then that's back to the end. And now, do I have to stop share to switch? Why don't you guys entertain questions while I play here for a second?
Any questions?
What's gonna happen at the Midwest show? There's a trial garden out there. Is there gonna be any judging of the trial garden? Is there any opportunity for us to learn more?
Yeah, it's very close actually. Now whether we could, because the host society is so busy that whether they can break somebody away to host a judging session. I think it would be great. We'd have to, maybe I get with Steve Kuiper and Mac Boyer and Cami and see if maybe something like that can be set up. I know 2 years ago we visited the Bonneville and I think the Swains did as well.
It probably won't be part of the agenda, Pat, but it sure is it's a wonderful question. And one of the things that happens at Elkhart every year is a judging seminar discussion that coincides with the Cuyahoga Fair. So at some point you might trade that off, although I sure feel like the Cuyahoga Fair is a good show, learning show for us as well. So
They'd be getting around 30 people out there for that
yeah, it's a good
trial
seminar.
garden and yeah, picnic. They have a picnic and it's a nice doing. The conflict hurts.
I have a suggestion for maybe a couple of weeks before Summit Mall. And now that we're so good at Zoom, I think it would be really valuable to have a little class on the show schedule.
Oh,
Because I remember talking to some people at Summit last year, and if you don't have any idea how to read that show schedule, it can be intimidating.
Huh.
So I think, in an hour, we could take a couple of pages, grab a flower and say, well, like, what would you do with this?
sounds
So
good.
just a thought.
Yeah, I feel like we want to encourage our members and our new members, maybe particularly, to show. And that would be, whatever we can do to make that easier would be good. Okay, did I successfully share the screen again here?
Yeah.
So you got it, says module 16?
Yep.
Rod Miner's version of module 16. I do I really do encourage you to go through that module, but it is slow moving. And I want to talk about the things that I perceive to be important for our judging process, as opposed to making you familiar with what's in the book, which is what module 16 basically does. It's very useful, very valuable, but in my view, not what we're talking about tonight. Okay, so here's here's how I think the CHD is useful in getting ready for a show before you even before you go to a show. You want to use the show schedule to determine where your entries go, and you can basically only do that when you have that classification handbook in your hand, because that will let you translate the form into where they go in the schedule. And the other thing is to identify the competition for your entries. So once you know it's a 3001, then you can go and look and see what the competition's going to be for that.
And there is an online version field guide that you can use on your phone if you.
Yeah, if when the book doesn't fit in your pocket, you could go to the online version. Is it easy, Sharon? I guess I've never used it.
It looks just like the regular OCG, except I took everything except the information off. doesn't have any
Okay.
links to go look at this and read
Yeah.
about color and all that kind of nonsense. I just stripped it down to the simplest thing.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm sure that will be increasingly popular, maybe more so with our new members too, huh? Well, okay, at the show, you can use that CHD to make sure that the entries are in the right class. You know, you might have a name and a classification that aren't consistent. You just look up the entry and see what it should be and maybe move the cultivar or question the name would be another possibility. If the classification and the name don't make sense together. The other thing that I think is really important when you're out there judging, that your CHD makes readily available the current definitions for the form of the classes that you're going to be judging. I think everybody has a reasonably good idea of what they are, what the definitions are, but reading them is important. And particularly reading them if if you are not super familiar with them. Okay, and at the seedling bench or the trial garden, you need to use the color. You need to determine the color chips, and then you need to use those color chips to determine the blend and the flames in particular. And maybe the key point there is I used to think that there was some judgment involved in the flames, and there isn't. If you have this quote unquote specific set of color chips, that CHD tells you whether it's a flame or not. There is no judgment factor there. It's unique. So please have your CHD handy in that regard as well. Yeah, and please do that module 16 on your own because it is important. Okay, I'm going to switch gears, and if anybody wants to go back and talk about any of the judging things that we've covered at shows or at the trial gardens, we could do that now, or we could wait. Your call. But I wanted to pause at least and say, ask away if you would like to. Gosh, there are only 6 of us on. That's a shame, right?
Ron, there's 14.
Oh, is there? Oh, good. I'm just not seeing them all.
You
Oh,
just-
good.
Yep.
Thank you. That makes me feel a lot better.
Ron was real bummed there for a sec.
Hearing none, I'm just going to go on with the piece that we assured you we would talk about tonight on everybody's status and how to move forward. So the requirements to advance from a candidate judge to an accredited judge are ongoing and continuing ADS membership. You need to grow and exhibit dahlias in 6 years or in 6 shows over 3 years. You need to take the the written AC test. You have to participate in at least 2 of these sessions that we're having tonight. And you need to serve as a candidate judge in 6 shows over 3 years. The one that's toughest and the one that we focus on at Petites is the judging seedlings. I feel like you can do that on your own to a substantial extent. And that is by, if you grow seedlings in particular, to go out and judge your own seedlings. And I would encourage you to do that on paper. Take the form and so that you are able, in in a year to say to Jerry, hey Jerry, look at all of the seedlings I judged, and I sure have met that requirement. We'll do some of it at the shows and at the Petites in the seminar, but you're not gonna get to 15 unless you work at it. So that's probably the toughest of the items on the list. And I am prepared to give you, a fair break if if you are in earnest working at that in your own garden. You have any disagreement with that, Jerry or
No,
Randy?
no, I just wanted to point out the AC test is open book, by the way.
Oh, yeah, and it's what they boil down to is looking in the guide to judging dahlias, looking up the answers. I mean, what you demonstrate with that is that you have read the book 16 times. So it's kind of painful because you have to invest the time to do it. But I mean, don't look at it as some big challenge because it really isn't. Right, guys, Jerry, you say?
Yeah, these judging modules have been, I think, very helpful along those
Yeah.
lines. Although, I mean, the printed answers are in the judging manual or in the CHD, but these
Yep.
modules have had a lot of answers to the questions on the AC test as well.
Yep.
Is
Okay,
it up to
for
the,
our,
is it up to the candidate judge to document their history? How does anyone know that they've done 6 shows over 3 years?
well, Pat, to some extent, I have that information if I am aware of it. In other words, after each show, and I have not done it for this series of seminars, but I should have. I just didn't do it. I've recorded those. I don't think the judging seminars, since we have a couple a year, I don't think those are particularly challenging. So, but from the point of view of experience, I would suggest that you all, keep track because I'm not able to be 100% sure that I'm capturing that correctly, but I do have a pretty good idea of who has done what. But
Okay.
as you said, you should also do it. Here's the requirements to advance to senior. Have to be, again, ongoing member, need to continue to grow and show. You have to serve as an AC judge for 4 years and in at least 8 shows. I got a kick out of the rule says judge several seedlings, but not less than 25 in 5 years. So in a way, that's almost easier than the other one, as long as you are kind of continuing to do that on your own, and that you are participating in the like in the Patiti seminars, and hopefully you're doing a bit on your own at home, and you're certainly. One way to encourage that is to grow some seedlings, because that kind of it helps you to look at your seedlings, let's see, with some objectivity. Need to demonstrate your ability to classify and judge open-centered and fully double cultivars, and it says in there to a team of senior judges. But I mean, if you do that in any of the formats where we require it, like at the Patitis and in any seedling bench evaluation. And I suppose we ought to consider a trial garden format again sometime, guys. That isn't obviously in the schedule at the moment, but that would be helpful on that one. Next, attend at least 3 judging seminars or training sessions. Complete the senior judges test, and that's that's the same as the other one, except longer and a little more painful, I suppose. And judge seedlings again, 15 to 20 seedlings per year for 3 years. Actually, that in the way the rule is worded, it almost says that's kind of an or option, as opposed to all of this other stuff. you need to do the test and you need to do the ceiling evaluations, if that's easier for you. Okay, then maybe the key point is where are we? So what I did was to go back and look at how many years I've had us in the books prior to 2024. So anybody with a 3, like Jess and Lori and Debbie Finley, although Debbie's less active these days. Or Anna, anybody with a 3+ is ready to go, and I would encourage to start working on the judge's test. I mean, get it out and look at it and see what you perceive to be the tougher areas. And those with a 4, well, of course I have. Oh, I left out anybody that's a senior judge already, but Kathy has 4 years, and we keep encouraging her to take the senior test. She hasn't done it yet. Randy, what are we going to do to get her going?
Well, she has a confidence issue about leading the team.
Oh,
She's a real good judge, there's no doubt.
yeah, I enjoy judging with her. She's always very perceptive.
I could twist her arm a little, but I might end up in divorce court.
Better pass on that then.
Randy, tell her I'd be on her team.
There you go.
Me too. Yeah, me too. So
I'm
Tammy's
kinda
up to 4
surprised I
years.
only have 1 year there. I've been showing since 2016.
Yeah, but you weren't on the list. You
Well,
weren't on the list, Pat. I'll take that on again. Maybe let's go back and look. What did
I
it
mean, I've
say?
documented all my activities. I've been clerking, showing and judging since 2016. And I know last year I took the candidate judge, but Tammy May has not been a judge for 3 years, or maybe she was active of trying to get on the list, but
She started the same time I did, Pat. So she's at 3 years too.
Well, I have her in the 4th year. Don't I have her on the 4th year back?
But I'll
I
vouch
think
for Pat because I feel like Pat's judged all
Well,
of
I'm not, we tried this last year almost over conversation of going out to the national.
Running a couple
Um,
of shows out of count too.
Well, the only issue is that that you have not been on my list because you didn't say you wanted to be on my list.
Well, do we have
But
all
I
the
thought-
old sheets? Do we have all the old judging sheets, Jerry?
Yes.
So all we have to
oh,
look is where she signed the judging sheets.
Yep.
Did you judge those years, Pat?
Oh, Pat, you're muted. Pat, you're muted.
You're muted, Pat.
I'm
There you
sorry.
go.
Yeah,
There
I
you
mean, I went back just out of curiosity to, I mean, I judged the Geauga show 1 year. I wasn't probably even supposed to, but I was asked to. I judged, there were no shows in 2020. I exhibited, I judged the Petiti show in 2021. I judged the Petiti show in 2022. I helped Jerry with the Summit Mall show, did seedling bench training. I mean, I've just been doing stuff every year, but maybe it's my fault that I didn't push to be on the list. I didn't,
Well, Pat, tell me what you think it should be.
I think I should probably be a 3.
Yeah, same.
I mean, I got the experience, that's for sure. I mean, I don't think anybody would dispute that.
Good. That's the way I will treat it. And sometimes I am able to pull it off, and I have not had the experience of being rejected.
Yeah,
So,
if you can, it's no big deal. I just was kind of
well,
surprised when I saw a
it is
one.
kind of it is kind of a big deal, Pat, because I should have been asking you, uh, shouldn't you be on the list? And I don't, well, I don't know whether I did that or not.
Yeah, you certainly
had-
nagged the rest of us.
right. I, I have tried to do that.
But I think we could find her signature on enough judging papers to
Yeah. Let me know if I
get
need
rid
to.
of any
sweet talk.
questions.
I can sweet talk Bob for you, Ron, if I need to.
Well, it's gonna take you, kid, because I can't, she won't listen to my sweet talk. That's
Oh.
for expletive deleted, sure.
Okay, well, I recently, I'll wait. You let me know.
Well, yeah, the way to do it is, with some subtlety, and I don't have to show, this information does not show on the sheet that I go to Bob. I just generated it. I guess I did it this afternoon, so that I knew specifically, who I had for how many years. And I will change yours, Pat, to 3. And we'll proceed and probably succeed. Excuse me.
That would be
You
great,
talk-
thanks.
I'm sorry.
Ron, are we doing anything with the candidates test?
Well, I thought that it would, I think the quote unquote, the official strategy is that they become a candidate after they pass the candidate test. But, at the outset, I thought the candidates should take it at the end of the season as opposed to now.
And that test is online, right?
Yes,
The test is online. Yep.
under member, down there under members part,
What do you think, Jerry? I mean, or Randy, what do you feel like we should do something different?
I mean, I think that the candidates test should be done, maybe after the first or even second year, but that gives them the learning process before they have to take the test. And also, I think it establishes whether somebody wants to stay with it or not.
So I think we're all of the same mind, that at the end of this, and I feel like this end of the season would be better than, waiting to I roll this over in April. And I don't see any reason to wait till then to do it. Might as well do it while it's fresh. And so those folks with 3 or more years ought to be taking the next level up. And those with less than 3 should be doing the candidate test at the end of the season. We
Ron,
all,
Ron, have you had any discussion with Todd Emhoff?
no, not since the national. We
Okay.
talked about it a lot then. And I couldn't persuade him to carry on.
Well, he's attended at least one of these sessions.
Yeah, he's been on.
Yes. Is he on that tonight?
No,
I think he came to form.
The thing that,
he just came the first one on form.
yeah, the thing that is a bit sticky here, and I guess I should have included it. I didn't really think about it, is that senior judges and accredited judges need to retake the test like every 5 years, I think it is. And so that was part of the reason that we were talking with Todd. And there are some folks on here who are, aren't in excellent compliance with that. So that's kind of a separate issue. I guess I better follow up on that and make sure we know what it is. At the moment, folks assume that it's every 5 years, and I probably ought to go back and look and see who all is due. And when I did that, we only had a couple long-standing issues, not anything recent, so. So have I encouraged, let's see, is Lori on? Have I encouraged Lori and Jess and Pat now?
I mean, I'll work on taking the test.
Wonderful.
She
I
says,
think you'll find it to be very, very easy, but a little painful in having to, go
Give us
back and look.
Jess, once you take it, us newbie people, just let us know.
Oh boy. Okay.
One of the things that I did want to ask is, if there are ways that I or Jerry or Randy can help you. I mean, if you get hung up on something,
Oh,
don't don't give up or something. Just please ask it, because there's no intention for that to be a barrier to anybody. It so
Right.
please ask away.
If we're doing it online, if it saves your progress. Like, do I have to do it all in one sitting?
I don't think you do,
I'm not sure.
but bear in mind that it gets calculated and reported both, I think, both to Bob and to me, probably.
Oh man, so if I fail, it's like public embarrassment.
Public embarrassment.
I,
Well,
I,
Well,
Ugh.
you're not doing that one anyway, Jess. You're doing the accredited test.
which is still on paper.
Yeah.
But I think the online one's coming out soon. I think it had something to do with whether you signed on with a Google account, then it would hold your results.
Yep,
If
it
you
has.
didn't, then you had to do it all in one, it's something like that, if I remember
Thanks, Sharon.
correctly.
Yeah, that could well be.
All right, well, I'll wait for the online version.
No, I would counsel you not to.
I hate paper. I don't write with my penmanship's in the garbage.
If you do, for those of you who do try to do the paper one, if you print it out and try to do it on what they give you, you're gonna go nuts. I would suggest that you save the file and then go into Word and you can spread it out. And then you can type it, and then it also makes it easier for Ron to read.
Absolutely, Sharon, but how do you convert it to Word?
I'll get it out there for everybody in Word. But I don't
Wonderful.
remember it being hard, but was it a PDF?
I don't know the answer to that.
I'll take care of that for everybody. And once you get it into Word, and then you can, if you don't use Word, you can take it into whatever word processing you use. And then you can spread it out and you've got plenty of room, because they give you like 2 lines to write a 14-paragraph answer. It's like crazy, but
Now, wait a minute.
and then Word,
There-
you can just keep expanding until you got your answer.
You
And like
guys-
I said, I really think it's, the first time I did it for you, Ron, so that you'd be able to read it.
You might
And
want,
then you can do it and print it out and read it over and, I'm sorry.
But Sharon, let me ask if it's not a super problem to do it for the senior test too.
Well, I will, because I'm gonna do that one myself. I've
Wonderful.
already pulled that one and I've got it on Word and spread out, partially spread out already.
Thank
So the
you.
Word one, the senior we can have right away.
Here comes the senior judge, folks. Hooray. Thank
By
you,
the way,
Sharon.
I don't know if this matters or not, but I know when I went through the candidates judge, just to see, a test, just to see what was on it. If you left it midstream and you came back, it reordered all the questions. So I don't know that it saves them.
Did you sign in with a Google account? I
Probably
think that's the key
Probably
thing.
not, probably just,
I can check that, but it seems to me that was the point of whether it saved it or not.
no.
if
And
it's,
that's kind of true in general, isn't it, Jess?
yeah, if they're using a Google form, That's the only way that it'll save progress.
Yeah,
is
so I think that that was the point of it, that you had to do it with a Google account.
Jerry, you have one from school. That's technically a Google account, your Marino one.
Yeah,
So as long as you're signed into your school account, you should be fine.
but that's the only account I have, and I know when I got out of the candidates judge test and came back, it reordered all the questions. Same questions, they just put them in a different order.
Mhm.
So I have to look at that again to see.
Is there a way to see if your Google account has all the modules? Because I didn't know about that, and I did the modules in December and January. And I went in and I saw that I had some of them completed, but not all of them, but even though I did all of them. Is there a way to see that on Google, or is that something that the higher up judges sees?
So I think you'd probably want to message Bob on that one, right? Is he the only one, Sharon, that sees the module submissions?
Well, it's supposed to be shared with me, with the local judging chair, and I haven't seen any, Shannon, so.
But
I
only,
don't-
only
Shannon,
if you request it, only
Shannon,
if you request it, it doesn't do it automatically.
Shannon's in a different society though.
Oh, okay. Oh,
She's-
okay.
Maddie.
Technically a member for both. I pay DSO and I pay Cincinnati. And I might be starting one in Kentucky.
Good for you. Well, Shannon, I have you listed on when you registered as Cincinnati.
I think you registered me. So
Well,
I'm
then I would have thought that I'd have gotten your
Same, yeah.
report. But I haven't gotten any
Well,
recently,
Um,
so maybe that's not happening
well,
anymore.
you know, you have to go register them on the ADS website. The fact that you go through it doesn't like say you finish it. You have to go do a step to say you finished it.
Right,
So it's,
And
and submit it.
I have access to all that data, so
I
you
did
didn't hear it from me, but
I did that for all the sections. I did you completed this. But the ones in the beginning, I noticed that well, somewhere in the mix I did with the Google and then not signed into Google. So
well, if
some
you know that you've done them all, you can just go out and do the I forget what we call it on the screen, but you can just go in and register that you did the module. If you know you did them, I can tell you which ones you're already registered for,
okay.
and then you can just go in and register. I don't
And-
think there's anything anybody would find strange about that.
Sharon, do you have that by club?
Not by club, but by person, and it might be by club. It's been a long time, but we can certainly get it by person's name. So, and I mean, we really should go. Technically, you want to go through Bob, but you know, for the one-offs, we can. Or I'll ask Bob if it's okay if I just do it for DSO. He probably
Thank you.
won't care. It'll save him the trouble.
That'd be great, thank you. So, but what you have access to is who has indicated that they completed.
Yeah,
Which
that
modules?
did the process of going into the screen and say, I've completed blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, great, great.
Shannon, send me your email, webmaster@diocesesocietyofohio.org. And then I'll look on yours soon and let you know.
What was your email again, Sharon?
Webmaster@diocesesocietyofOhio.org or Sharon Swaney at windstream.net, but the webmaster one's easier.
Shannon, I'll DM you on Instagram. I got you.
Thank
You
you.
guys. You get that, Jerry?
No,
Me either.
Each other every once in a while. She has really pretty hair. She just got it red.
Great. Okay, well, let's go back. Anybody have any questions at all?
I have a question about the CHD, Jerry. When you submit the show results, what constitutes a higher blue? And the reason why I ask this is when you look at the cream of the crop, some cultivars will have a greater value under higher blues than they do total blues. So my question on that is, like, if you submit a multiples, are you getting like extra credit points in there?
No, it means that it not only did it win its class, it won the section and then the next step up and maybe one more step. So it could get 3 higher awards and a blue.
Yeah,
So the
Right.
total blues,
Just so
would
you
the
know.
total blues include the higher?
Apparently not.
Because that's what I was wondering. To me, it would, and maybe I'm misunderstanding this. Let's say that I had a Bloomquist Gene Bloom. So it wins its class, gets a blue. Or it wins its, oh, now I'm struggling to put these in the right order. Like with high school sports, it's sectionals, districts, states. So you have to win sectionals to get to districts, and you have to win districts to get to states.
yeah.
In the
Yep,
shows,
similar.
first section or class.
Well, and the other confusion is that not all flowers go through the same number of steps to get to the, but I mean, you can get all the way to the court, and some flowers go through more steps to get there as
Right.
opposed to other ones.
So they have the opportunity for more blues
So,
and maybe
yeah.
more higher awards as well.
So
It
like
seems to me
when
that-
it says Bloomquist Gene in the cream of the crop for 23, it says Bloomquist Gene has 172 total awards. That would be adding the numbers all the way straight across.
Well, add them all the way across, and is it right?
Well, I don't know about that, but here's my question. Total West Blues, 47. Total West higher awards, 48. So I would think you would have the opportunity to have more blues than higher, because you can higher unless.
No, you can actually have more hires than blues.
So that's why I want to know.
Because-
Explain that. Why is that?
Because
Because
it
it
goes
could-
through like, or Ron, do you want to explain it?
No, it's all right. You're doing it. That's fine.
Okay, so you get a blue, like the very first thing it gets is a blue in its class. And then if it's a big show and it has to go to the next level, it can get a higher there. Then if it has to go to the next level, it can get a higher there. Now, so if it keeps going, I've already got 2 hires and only 1 blue. And
Okay,
then-
so total blues isn't, I was reading total blues as all the blues it got.
Well, it is.
It
But it's
is,
But that's
doing
only
it
at the lowest
lower
level. Right,
It's
okay.
doing it,
Okay.
that just means the breadth of the number of shows it was in. It's got that many blues. But
Yeah,
when it
blues
goes to
and
the
higher.
next, those are just higher. Those aren't blue.
And
Okay.
some of the smaller categories, they don't get to go through as many levels. Every time it gets judged, it's a higher. If once you get off the first one, you get a blue. Then from then on, they're hires. And it's kind of, to me, it's kind of an odd system,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it seems to work, I guess.
It makes sense to me now. I was misunderstanding blue ribbons. Like there were shows that a flower would have 4 blue ribbons when it finally got up to the honor table, and I was looking at all those as blues. I didn't
No, don't
realize
think
that
those
was
are
like the
really
show's
blues.
designation.
Sometimes the reason for that is some shows don't have gold. Usually that's your section winner, you get a gold. Well, a lot of shows that I've been to, and we'll substitute like 2 blue stickers for that gold. And that gives the judges the identification to know where that bloom sits at any given time.
Or we call it a special
Yeah,
to really confuse things.
but it's every time that it's judged, once you get past the first one, it's every time it's judged, it's a quote unquote higher.
Yep. Okay. That makes total sense to me now. It was all the blue stickers that we were putting 2 blue stickers on something
Yeah,
to
that
prove
doesn't
that it
have
was higher.
anything, that
That's
doesn't
what
have
was
anything to do with the
confusing me.
pricing mix. And if a whole bunch of people show a flower, you know, it can end up getting a lot of blues, but maybe it never really does much after that. And you can kind of perceive that by looking at the numbers. But that's very possible. If it's something really popular, it can end up getting a lot of blues across the country, but then it doesn't really show up much later.
And then Sharon, this is a question for you. I see that the 2023 cream of the crop is now the new one showing
Yes.
all the awards. So that's all correct now, where
Yes,
we
we
can
still
ignore
don't
the back of the
have-
book.
And it's still a mess. For those of you who don't know, there were some problems with the CHD this year. A whole bunch of reasons for it, but that's neither here nor there. There were a bunch of things that didn't get added to the CHD. They are now in the online CHD, and there's going to be some sort of document, I think, coming out to say, here's what's missing in the printed one, because they can't reprint it, it's just too expensive. So there's going to be some kind of a document come out telling you all the difference. And I've loaded some of that in the online one already. So if you're looking for something and it's not in the online one, you might want to try looking, or not in the book. So there's some issues, and we're still trying to, I'm waiting for data. And I think, Chris, I told you, I'm thinking about putting something about this year's awards out there so people can go out and just like see them all in one place online with all the
That's probably-
corrections.
Probably a great idea.
So I don't think it would be that hard, and you know, we just need to make it easy for people to find the corrections.
Yeah.
I just hope everybody's being kind, because all that stuff's volunteer and it's easy to
Oh,
make
and
a
that's
mistake.
got to be the worst job in the ADS.
Yeah.
Keeping that book. I can't. That's horrible.
Can I insert something since I'm Midwest president? You know, you look at in your classification book, you're looking for your highs, you know, higher awards and blues and so on and so forth. And some people misconstrue the Central Division with the Midwest Conference. And the Central Division is much bigger than the Midwest Conference. So just keep that thought in mind, you know, especially, you know, if you're looking for Midwest blooms for the Midwest show. So, but yeah, I think the Central Division, if I remember right, at one point it included Colorado and you know, and even back towards maybe Western Maryland or somewhere in that area. I don't remember now, but just so you don't construe that those two are of the same.
Thanks, Randy. Ready to quit?
Thank you for everything you guys did over all these weeks. It was awesome.
Thanks, Ron.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you so very, very much.
Well,
Thanks all.
I certainly appreciate
Ditto, thank you.
everybody's
Yeah,
interest in judging. So
we've learned
a
a lot.
lot.
Thank you.
good.
That's what you want to hear.
So we'll see you at Cuyahoga and Summit and Geauga.
Mm-hmm.
And but
Four at a time.
these 4 shows are all already there, done.
Yep. Okay, thanks very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
And,
everybody.
thanks, Randy and Jerry, for being co-chairs. That's
Been a
great.
pleasure.
Good night, all. Good night.
Good night.